could, everyone please take your seats. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Welcome to the NWTF Grand National Calling Championships Hall of Fame induction ceremony for the class of 2022. Man, it's great to be back here in Nashville, back with all of you. It's homecoming for many of us. To be able to come back after last year not having the Grand National Championships, to have what we just had a few minutes ago. I think many of you were here, but if you weren't, we just finished the senior finals, and I'll share with you the top 5. And something very interesting occurred there, but our 4th runner-up, Josh Grossenbacher. 3rd runner-up, Jed Peronish. 2nd runner-up, Jared Lowe. 1st runner-up, David Owens. And the senior open champion and the first 7-time Grand National Calling champion, senior final open, Matt Van Sice. I know some of them are in here. Why don't you give them a big round of applause for what a job they did. It's been amazing over the last 45 years how far the Grand Nationals have come from that very first Grand National in Hershey, Pennsylvania back in 1977 when Terry Rahm took it. In fact, took it the first 2 years. And through the 45 years of the Federation's Grand National Calling Championships, there's been many, many individuals that have been involved with the success. Our sponsors, our supporters, the people that built stages, the volunteers. And I can tell you these individuals played some vital roles in the sport of competitive turkey calling, innovating calls, techniques, supporting callers in contests from across the nation. And they did it through the encouragement and the mentoring of just generations of turkey callers who followed. You know, for many, it was a dream come true. For many that competed and won, it started a business. It reached a goal that they had been looking for a long time in recognition. It launched them into a new career. And I'll tell you, it's these types of individuals whom the Hall of Fame was created for. Through the induction of this 3rd class of the Hall of Fame today, we're going to pay tribute to 5 men who left their lasting mark on the championships, the sport of competition calling and the passion for turkey hunting and the calling traditions unmatched anywhere. These are the world's best, and they join the elite ranks of 12 previous Hall of Fame inductees from 2019 and 2020. It's our honor to memorialize them and their lifetime achievements. With that, I'd like to welcome to the stage our first presenter, Jason Stuckey, who will introduce the first Hall of Fame class of 2022 inductee, his father, Tom Stuckey.
Said, my name is Jason Stuckey. I'm proud to be up here talking about my dad today. My life has been all about turkeys from the time I was a baby till now. I can remember first thing when I was young, following Dad around all his turkey calling contests, and then it went into some seminars, and I heard the same stories over and over, but it was all good. And like I said, turkey hunting's always been about family to us, and I'd like to share a couple of those stories with y'all, if you don't mind. First one was me, my grandpa, and my dad. My grandpa's passed away now, but this was before that. and we was doing a video hunt for Hunter Specialties in Ohio. Good friend of my dad's place had a bird that was coming in the same little food plot every day, the same way. So it's me, Dad, and him, and we got this blind set up. It took a little longer than we thought, but here come the turkey. Dad told Grandpa, "All right, take it." Boom! Turkey falls. We got it. So we're going to ham it up. We're hamming it up. We go out there. We're all standing around this turkey. You know, Dad says, "Good job, Dad." I said, "You know, great shot, Grandpa." That turkey's got his head up looking at us. And he's like, "Hey, what y'all doing here? Would y'all hear that thunder? It sounded awful close." So needless to say, it turned into a wrestling match, tag team, me and Dad on this bird. And with the help of a big log, we finally got the bird. And he was a TV star, and it all worked out real well. So then, fast forward a couple years, Dad's been lucky enough, and I've been lucky enough to be with Dad, and we've harvested a couple birds with both of my kids, both of his grandkids. And one that stands out to me, he was down on a Saturday. It was one of those days where most of the kids had ball games in the afternoon, and we was gonna hunt some that morning. So we go out, we're underneath this old tree. We hadn't heard nothing. We'd seen some scratching in there the day before. We hadn't heard a thing. Me and Dad both did our little tree call routine, and let me tell you, he's pretty good at that kind of thing. It really sounded good. And all that's about over. We still hadn't heard nothing, and I hear something. It was one of those calls. I don't know if y'all saw those turkey callers up here earlier, but they did it. That real soft thing that you can't hear from here to that bobcat. I heard that. So I look up, and I can see this old beard hanging down and just the tip of that turkey's beak sitting right above me in the tree, and they're a good ways away from it. So I look over, and I see my son looking at me, and I'm trying to give him one of these notes right here, trying to tell him the turkey's above my head. Finally, I see his eyes get about this big. And my son's about 11 years old, 12 at that time. And I can hear him telling Granddad, I mean, turkey's right here, I can hear him. "Granddaddy, I see him, he's right there." And Granddad's over there shaking his head like, this kid don't know what he's talking about, you know, whatever. But anyhow, Granddad finally looked over, and both of them was like, wow, and ended up, we was in between that gobbler and his hens, and the turkey flew down. We had to do a little bit of moving around, but we finally got on that bird, and my son killed it, and it was just a real cool thing. I'm just really proud to be standing up here and introducing my dad. In my very, very biased opinion, he is the greatest turkey hunter that's ever lived. But more important than that, he's also a Hall of Fame dad. He's done more for us than you can imagine. He's put this hunting legacy in our family that I've passed down. And Dad, I know you can hear me back there. I promise you this. We're going to keep that going as long as we can. Thank you for everything you've done for me. This is well deserved. All right? That's all I got to say, and I think Matt will be coming up now.
That one was tough on the top, buddy. That was awesome. A little bit about what I know about Tom Stuckey. For myself personally, I was a young man, got to travel the road with Tom in high school, and he taught me a lot about things, especially the industry. Tom was a hero, like many that are sitting in this room today, to me as a kid growing up. And Tom wasn't scared to share anything. If y'all know Tom, he's also not scared to sell anything either. I've drove down the road with Tom many times where we traded shotgun shells for gasoline just to get to the next seminar. You know, we can't claim Tom Stuckey in Pennsylvania, although he lived in Pennsylvania for a stint in his life, and there's a mountain in Bedford, Pennsylvania called Stuckey Mountain, where I'm sure a lot of turkeys that have heard Tom yell to him. One thing I say about Tom Stuckey, there's not an interstate exit in Virginia and Pennsylvania all the way down through the southern states that he probably hasn't pulled off and spread the word of wild turkeys, the NWTF, and turkey hunting. You know, when you look at the history and where we're at today, when we're sitting here in Nashville with the 50th anniversary coming next year, Tom's been there every step of the way. And like Jason said, there's no one that deserves this award more than Tom Stuckey to be on that list of Hall of Famers. So we're proud to induct him today, and congratulations, and thank you for everybody out there for being here and supporting the Grand Nationals and keeping that history alive.
Thank you very much. Wow. When your son gets up and says stuff like that, it's pretty rough. But I appreciate it. Thank you, man. You've been a solid friend of mine for many, many years, and the work you do with the Pennsylvania Game Commission is remarkable. And what they do for the wild turkey up there in the state of Pennsylvania, with the leadership up there, that commission is amazing. So thank you for the kind words. And Jason, I'll say a few more words about you in a minute. Wow, you know, it's been a long ride. And it all started on a stage just like this, where a group of turkey hunters back in that day all got together and kind of sized each other up, reached in a hat and pulled a number out to see where they was going to call in a calling contest, to see which one of them was the best. My first one was in 1970, and it was the Pennsylvania State Turkey Calling Contest, and back in that day, there were only a handful of contests throughout the United States. In 1970, there was no National Wild Turkey Federation. But that small nucleus of people that called in that calling contest that day, it's amazing to see how many of them went on to become pioneers in the industry and to light the torch and light the fire. That first contest in 1970, I used the Lynch box call the whole way through. And to do a kiki run on that box call, I wasn't very good, so I came in last. But I was bound and determined I wasn't going to let that happen again, so I recorded with a little cassette recorder all the callers that called that day. And my dad went and helped me make some calls. And he made a call, and I won't tell you exactly what the ingredients were, but it was a drink can. I won't tell you what flavor of beer it was, but anyhow, he cut that all up, and then he stretched some latex over it with some duct tape, and I made a diaphragm mouth call. And I learned how to yelp on that thing. Now, the edges of that diaphragm mouth call was pretty rough, so it kind of cut my mouth up a little bit. And the next year, I went to the calling contest, and I was ready to compete with a diaphragm mouth call, and I could beat him. And oh, by the way, that year, I heard the world champion was actually coming to the contest. And sure enough, he pulled up there in a Volkswagen. I'll never forget Ben Lee. If you could ever knew Ben Lee back in the day, for him to get in a Volkswagen was a real task. He weighed about 400 pounds. But he had a guy with him named Tom Rogers. And I never forget, I wanted to talk to Ben so bad, but I couldn't get near him because everybody and their brother was talking to Ben, and I was too shy. So I went underneath a picnic shelter, and I was practicing my calls, and it wasn't no time, somebody tapped me on the shoulder, and I turned around, and there was Ben Lee. He said, "Boy, what you yelping on?" And I showed him this call. He started laughing. He said, "Have you ever tried any of my calls?" And he gave me some of his turkey calls. Little did I know what that meant to me in my lifetime. It's kind of like when Babe Ruth steps up to bat and hands you a baseball bat when you're a kid. That's about what it was like for me. He said, "You're going to beat me in this calling contest today," and guess what I did? And we became good friends through the years because of that. I'll never forget Tom Rogers coming to my house when I was a young boy, my dad's house. It says, "We're going to start something, a turkey hunting group. All these turkey callers are telling us we should have our own group. Turkey callers." That year, I gave him $10 and said, I want to be a member of it when you put it together. And that next year, in 1973, they chartered the National Wild Turkey Federation. And yes, I still have my original membership card. Probably one of the first 50 ever members. We started networking and going along. Back in those days, I didn't have no money. To go to a calling contest was a real challenge. We tag teamed up in motel rooms. Somebody would buy a motel room or rent one out for the night, and there would be 12 guys piled into it because we was broke. We'd travel around trying to go from contest to contest. Things progressed. In 1977, I was involved in a railroad accident. It cost me my right leg. I laid in a hospital all bent up and broken back, the whole 9 yards. Phone rang in Pennsylvania in the hospital, and it was Ben Rogers Lee, and he said, Tom, I'm so sorry to hear what's happened to you. By the way, do you have a TV in your room? I said, yes. He said, turn it on to the Mike Douglas show. I did, and sure enough, he walked out. And he was doing turkey calls on TV. Can you imagine that? Turkey calls on TV. With J.J. Walker and Tony Randall, and he says, you know what? We got a National Wild Turkey Federation, folks. A turkey caller promoting the National Wild Turkey Federation. It was awesome. He said, Tom, he called me back as soon as he got off stage. He said, you're going to need a job. You can't go back on the railroad for sure. So I went to work with him and a guy named Fred Bear. And I traveled all over the United States doing seminars with those guys. The Golden Horseshoe hit me. And it's been a great ride. It's been really interesting. But what was neat about this in my career after all these years of doing this were the people, just like you here in the audience, the people that's watching this on live stream, some very, very good friends that cannot be here. There were people that made it so special, that helped me with my career. I would be wrong if I didn't recognize those people today, and I would like to do that. Some of them are here. Some of their health issues with other ones could not be here, so I'm going to point it out to those. Without belaboring each one, Mr. Mike Dickus and his wife, Linda, and his son, Brian, from Ironton, Ohio. A good friend, Mr. Tom Moore, from Lancaster, Ohio. A great friend who can't be with us today, but I'm praying for him and his health and his family, and hope he can see this, Mr. Ron Fretz. And Ron was one of the greatest leaders of this organization ever, as he donated his personal time to be on the board of directors for 28 years. So much so that the building at Edgefield, South Carolina is actually named after him. What a tremendous leader. His son, Tim Fretz, kind of the guy behind the scenes, getting things done. Mr. Jay Scholes, who's on the NWTF Foundation Board, and who I'm in business with today. One of the most powerful men in the shooting sports industry and one of the most respected men ever. And what a leader he is. Mr. Bill Jordan and Mr. David Blanton from Realtree, solid friends, always in your corner, always there. When something went wrong, the phone was ringing. It was them. My personal assistant in my current business, Legacy Conservation Partners, Miss Janice Presley. What a talent, what an awesome lady. And I had the privilege of working with her during my small stint with the National Wild Turkey Federation when I worked at the headquarters. Mr. Dave and Carmen Forbes, who started Hunter Specialties. Mr. Carl Jackson, who hired me way back when and gave me a job when I needed one as a sales rep. Mr. Steve Harris from the Outdoor Marketing Group, who I had the privilege to be a business partner with. Mr. John Payne, a veteran and just a great hunter. We laughed and had more fun times in the turkey woods than I could tell you about today. Mr. Greg Moore, the Honorable Gregory P. Moore, judge in Montana. Mr. Barry Hopkins and his brothers from Greentop Sporting Goods, Mr. Kevin Harris and Todd Reed from Dominion Outdoors in Stewart's Draft, Virginia, Mr. Phil Martin and Alex Martin from Blue Ridge Knives, Mr. Richard Carter, an old-time turkey hunter from the low country of South Carolina, Mr. Kyle Weaver, who is the current CEO of the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. I worked with him for many, many years. What a talent he is. What an extreme talent he is. Mr. Mike Evans, who's on the National Wild Turkey Federation Board of Directors. There were callers that meant an awful lot to me, a lot of them through the years, and almost all of them had great relationships with all of them. But I want to point out a few, and I already mentioned Ben Rogers-Lee. The current Hall of Famer in the first class, Mr. Terry Rome, from the famous Rome family, probably one of the most predominant turkey hunting families in America. Mr. Ray I, who's being inducted here today. A lot of folks don't know, you probably heard of Hunter Specialties H.S. Strutt. H.S. Strutt was started by a guy named Ray I and Tom Stuckey. We had the privilege of working side by side. Mr. Walter Parrott, a former Grand National champion and in the Hall of Fame. Mr. Paul Butsky, also in the Hall of Fame. Good friend and maybe one of the best turkey hunters, if not the best turkey hunter I ever hunted with, Mr. Steve Cobb from South Carolina. But really when it boils down to, when it comes down to the people that support you, my family was it. I thank God I had a dad that loved me enough to take me to the woods and teach me how to hunt. God blessed me with a great earthly father here, Mr. Irvin Stuckey. He always had time. He always took me out of school. He always carried me in the woods. I'll never forget my first turkey hunt. I was scared to death before daylight, walking through the woods, and he told me, boy, if you can't keep up, stop, stay still, don't move. I'll come back and get you. That was a challenge for a young kid scared to death. I'd hear the gun go off, and here he'd come back up over the hill with a turkey, and he'd come back to get me. But that's the daddy I had. Thank God my dad loved me enough and took care of me, and he also promoted me and took me to calling contests. He said, you got something that these people need to hear. You can call. And he was always in my corner. My son Jason, never had a man that I could count on any more than my son Jason. He's always been there. He's a rock. The way he's raising his kids, the things he stands for, I couldn't be prouder. His wife Teresa, and my 2 grandkids under that family, the prettiest girl on the face of the earth out of Virginia, Miss Georgia, and what a talent she is, and a sweetheart and a sweet spirit. And my namesake, my grandson Cole. And folks, don't let him hunt your turkey woods. You come in second place if he's hunting there. He's a turkey hunter deluxe. I couldn't be prouder of you. Miss Teresa, Cole, and Georgia, I love you. Thank you for being here today. Miss Jody, my daughter, happy birthday, hon. It's your birthday. God bless me to give me a great daughter like you. You've always been there, and I love you. Her husband, Daryl, and that my grandson, I'm telling you, this kid's going to be a 5-star football recruit in the year 2030. He's awesome, Mr. Jax Jones. My brother is no longer alive. But my brother Dan and I hunted all over the United States together. He was always there for me. Those people were instrumental. Through the years, I've been to every Turkey Federation convention except 2. One year, I was in the hospital. One other year, the shooting sports industry show called the SHOT Show was going on, and I couldn't get away. I had to go to work. But beside that, I've been to every national convention there's ever been. And one thing I've learned is the camaraderie of the callers have always stayed here. It's always meant something to be up on this stage. I'm telling you, it's tough getting up here. You get nerves like you can't believe. I don't care how many times you do it. It's awesome. I'll get off of here. It's one of the greatest days of my life. Trust me. After 40-some years of being in the shooting sports industry and almost 50 years of tied into the National Wild Turkey Federation and over 50 years of hunting the wild turkey, it's been a great ride, and I thank you. But before I leave, I want to leave you this message. I want to send a challenge to each one of you, everyone that's watching this on live stream or everyone that is here right now. For the members of the National Wild Turkey Federation, I want to challenge you to stay the course. Fight harder than you've ever fought. Believe in the mission of the National Wild Turkey Federation. We need this organization to be stronger today than it's ever been. We ask that you help recruit more people to join this flock and be part of it. We need you. Don't ever get discouraged. It's just about like when you go out and call and you don't hear a gobbler gobble. Sometimes you want to give up. But I've found out if you stay the course, you'll fill that tag more often than not. So members, you stay together. The volunteers of the National Wild Turkey Federation are some of the greatest people you have ever met in your life. They don't get awards like this. They don't get the pat on the back. They sweep the floors after the banquets are done. They sell the raffle tickets. They recruit. They knock on doors. They help plant food plots. They work on habitat projects. And rarely do they get recognized. But I guarantee you one thing, God's got a blessing for you because you're doing his work out there, folks. You volunteers are the real backbone of the National Wild Turkey Federation. Don't ever forget it. Don't ever feel like you've never been recognized or realized your value. I would like to challenge the staff of the National Wild Turkey Federation. And I would also like to challenge the board of directors of the National Wild Turkey Federation. This organization really needs to see one thing as we move forward. And if you keep that in mind, I promise you, this organization will stay strong for years to come. And that challenge is show them your heart. Show them your love and your passion for the outdoors and for the wild turkey and for the wild turkey hunter. Because if there's one thing I've learned over the years, when you get on this stage, there's no hiding. They know if you know how to call or not. And when you're out there in the woods, that turkey knows if you're good or not. And if you talk turkey hunting with somebody and you don't turkey hunt, it don't take them long to figure out you don't turkey hunt. You don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, turkey hunters will see your heart. And if they see your heart and they know you love it, they'll join with you. So I challenge you for that. Thank you for your time. God bless you. May God bless the National Wild Turkey Federation. And thank you for this great honor.
Powerful moment for the Stuckey family. Congratulations, Tom. Our next presenter is no stranger to the turkey calling world. My good friend Steve Stoltz, who will introduce fellow Missouri native and legend in the turkey calling world, Chris Parrish.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you, National Wild Turkey Federation, for coming up and designing the Grand National Turkey Callers Hall of Fame to recognize the careers of turkey callers that have dedicated their life to the sport and to the National Wild Turkey Federation. Give them a big round of applause. I have the great honor to introduce the next inductee to the 2022 Grand National Turkey Callers Hall of Fame. James Christopher Parrish. His wife, Kathleen, and son, Rusty, are in the audience. Give them a big round of applause. Raise your hand, Rusty. Rusty, there you go. First lady of turkey calling. His parents could not be here. Jim and Rovine. But according to Jim, Chris fell in love with turkey hunting at a very, very young age. And then, had a fortunate occurrence to run into his dentist, or at his dentist's office. The dentist showed him Dental Dam, how to make a turkey call. From there, Chris got a hold of a Ben Rogers Lee tape. You heard Tom Stuckey, inductee, just mentioned Ben Rogers Lee and what an impact he had on all our lives and our careers. Well, he listened to that tape, practiced and listened, killed his first turkey at a young age at 11, and then won his first turkey calling contest at age 12. His first contest was the Mark Twain Open. A few years later, they wouldn't let him call in the junior division anymore. He kept winning it. So he had to call in the Open, which was kind of weird because he was still young. Well, guess what he did in the Open? Right away, he started placing. When he was young, he baled hay and worked in a factory. But he figured after a while, that just wasn't going to cut it. So he made the really tough decision to leave the factory and leave the hay baling, start building turkey calls. It was the smartest decision Chris Parrish ever made. Chris's talents, both on stage and off stage, were being recognized. And then he went to build calls full time. Can you realize what a venture that was at a young age, to leave your full-time job and go into building turkey calls? So the demand for his turkey calls were rising. His hunting ability mirrored his calling talents. Not just for turkey, but also big deer. You know, Chris is an accomplished trophy whitetail hunter. A lot of people don't know that. He's an accomplished hunter, period. Chris is a killer. He gets his game. I don't think anybody is more determined when you give him a task to get that task done. And that determination spilled into his calling career. He married his wife, Kathleen, in 1997. And she became a part of the production team of what was now Custom Calls. In 2003, here came Rusty. Rusty was born premature. They had many health problems with a premature baby. And I'll tell you, I was there. It was a struggle for those two parents. But I'm proud to say, 18 years later, Rusty is getting ready to graduate high school with honors. Big round of applause for Rusty. You know, Chris has provided well for his family. He's produced top quality game calls. He's been in turkey call development. He's been excellent, obviously, at everything he has set out to do. And now he's the product manager of the traditional archery division for Bear Archery. And it goes without saying, for many years, he built turkey calls for a lot of companies, including Night and Hail Game Calls. When I was trying to put this together and talk about Chris, I would be remiss to not include some of the people in his life that affected his calling career. So I'm going to start with Walter Parrott. You know, Walter Parrott, the decorated turkey caller from Missouri, and for some reason, and I'm from Missouri too, all the great, not all of them, a lot of them were from Pennsylvania, Alabama, all over, but there was a bunch of them in Missouri. Missouri was a tough contest to compete in, and Walter Parrott was certainly at the top of that class. Walter met Chris at the Hannibal contest, the Mark Twain Open, and he knew when he first heard him, he was going to be a special one. Walter and Chris became friends, and although fierce competitors, they were joined at the hip for many years in turkey calling championships. And Walter helped Chris and mentored Chris at a time where we didn't do that. Callers didn't help other callers much. They didn't share their secrets too much. They didn't share their special cuts in their calls or how they were building their call to make it a championship call. And at that time, Walter paired up with Chris and, of course, friends for life. Keith Wallig also first met Chris at the Mark Twain Open. Keith knew from the first time he heard him call that he was going to be a thorn in his side. Keith is an accomplished caller from the Midwest himself, placed in the top 5 in the Grand Nationals. So Keith knew when he heard real turkey. And in Keith's ears, he had never heard anybody sound more real and more talented than Chris Parrish. Chris's good friend Mark Drury said, and you all know Mark, an extraordinarily determined to achieve perfection with every note. Each time he called, whether it was practice, in the field, or on the stage. Chris was the model of consistency during his distinguished calling career. When he was not at a contest, or when he showed up to a contest, it was automatic that one of those top places was going to be Chris Parrish. Mark said he's proud to call Chris a friend, his dear friend, and he was one of the most realistic callers to ever grace the stage of the Grand Nationals. Harold Knight, good friend Harold Knight. Of course, Chris worked for Knight and Hale Game Calls for many years. Harold said he first met Chris at the National Wild Turkey Federation convention. And Harold recognized his true talents. He immediately hired Chris to build calls for Knight and Hale. And in his eyes, Chris was not only a great caller, but a great turkey hunter. And trust me, he is. He always called on stage like he was working a turkey. And once, while hunting with Chris and Harold were hunting at Harold's farm in Kentucky. And Chris stepped on a rattlesnake. And Chris jumped 10 foot high. Came back down. Chris's eyes were this big. Chris was speechless when Harold said to him, "I don't carry rattlesnake insurance, so I hope you're not bit." He wasn't bit. He didn't get bit on that occurrence. But yeah, he stepped on a rattlesnake with Harold. Myself, I first met Chris at a calling contest. I don't know which one. They all run together to me. But I became friends with Chris when we both joined Strut and Rut Game Calls Pro Staff for a short time. He invited me out to his place to build and practice turkey calling. And since then, we too have been great friends. In 1994, when Mark Drury started Mad Calls, he hired Chris's company. And the entire time Mad Calls was in business, Chris built every single Mad Call, and every single one was to perfection. I traveled many turkey calling championships throughout the country with Chris, roomed with him. I think I was his good luck charm because he won a bunch when I was with him. Very hard to beat. I remember in, I believe 2007, don't know if I have the year right, I traveled with him to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And the total prize package was $17,500 for first place. Do I need to repeat that? Yeah, $17,500. Guess who won it? From the caller number 2 position, Chris Parrish. His calling skills and talents are second to none. I've always said, and I think all the Hall of Famers here, Rob behind me, I think everybody will agree, probably the most talented turkey caller that's ever stepped on this stage for raw talent. Chris has helped me over the years, and when he built me my calls, and he built them for me, and I would win, and sometimes even actually end up ahead of him, which was a miracle. I don't know what the judges were thinking. But I would end up ahead of him, and I would call him and say, I can't believe that I scored better than you, or even Walter, or any of them. And I said, but thank you for building me those calls. And you know what he'd say? Hey, all I do is build them. You got to run them. And that just stuck with me because it made me be better, a better caller. In review, Chris Parrish has won and has over the years helped the National Wild Turkey Federation with seminars, media, hunts, educational films, TV shows, and video. Along the way, he's become one of the winningest turkey callers in the history of the sport. Chris, over his calling career, has accumulated more prize money total in his career than any turkey caller in the history of the sport. He's won 11 Grand National titles, including 2 Grand National Senior Opens, back-to-back, 10 World Turkey Calling Championship titles, 3 U.S. Open titles, 4 Mid-America Open titles, the North America Open Championship, and 10 Missouri State Championships. In addition, Chris was the Senior Grand National Champion runner-up 9 times. That's 9 times he stood up there with only 2 callers left in the Super Bowl of turkey calling. What an honor and privilege to introduce to you Mr. Chris Parrish, the 2022 inductee of the Grand National Turkey Callers Hall of Fame. Come on up here, Chris.
That's going to be tough to follow right there. Didn't leave a lot of room for me to speak, really. I guess most importantly, we're here to get honored, but in reality, it's kind of an honor for us, more so than those guys, the NWTF honoring us. To me, it was a privilege to be able to come up here and hunt. So I want to thank God first for the wild turkey, and then the NWTF for putting this together and allowing us to get up here and call and work at something that all of us that are here love, and that's turkey calling and hunting the wild turkey and being a part of the outdoors and nature. And it's something that it means a lot to me. And I look at the guys down there that are waiting to come up behind me, and these guys are all my predecessors. They were here before me. They kind of paved the way. I'm the youngest one in here. I want to mention that real quick just to make sure everybody knows. Out of all these inductees, I'm the youngest one. Rob back here, I've known Rob a long time. I was blessed to share a couple of hunts with Rob. I'll tell you, he's a turkey machine as well. So, and Steve and I go way back. I have traveled a lot of country with Steve, and played a lot of golf with Steve, and ran a lot of turkey calls, and we've had a lot of fun over the years just traveling and calling and sharing tree stands together. And as he mentioned, that's kind of honestly, one of my favorite loves of hunting is hunting big whitetails. But I love the fall because I get to hear a lot of turkeys call, and I learn a lot from that. So that's kind of the reason why I like it. But Steve mentioned, dang it, I knew this would happen. Steve mentioned Walter Parrott, and he did have a very big impact in my life. But, you know, that's what it takes. I think that's why I always tried to work with everybody. Anybody needed anything, anybody wanted to learn something, or needed a call built or whatever, is I believe you need to mentor people. If you want this to grow, if you want this to get better, you have to give of yourself. So I thank him for that. And I got to share a lot of time with Walter. We traveled around a little bit. A quick story, actually. I was at Harold and David's, and I don't know, we might have been filming something for the TV show back then. And Walter and I were going to leave to go to Arkansas. And at the time, I think I had a little green Nissan truck, and we were parked in Chuck Jones's driveway. Chuck was gone, and we were getting ready to leave out. I had started the truck, and then for some stupid reason locked the doors. So the truck's running with the doors locked. And I go in, I'm like, hey, bud, we got a problem. I can't get in the truck. I don't know what to do here. He goes, well, do you have another key lock? I go, no, I don't have anything. So we play around trying to get things, and nothing's working, nothing's working. And I'm like, well, I said, you know, the only thing I know to do is I'll just jump up in the back of the truck and I'll kick the back window out, and at least we'll be able to, you know, get there. He goes, dude, it's friggin' 25 below zero, you know. We're not going to drive down there with a window kicked out. I said, what do you think? And he goes, you small enough to fit through that back window? And I said, yeah, I think I'm small enough. He said, let me get a butter knife. So we jockeyed the back window around, had one of those sliding windows, you know. We jockeyed the back window around. I crawled through the back window, got everything open, and off to Arkansas we went. And he beat me that day by a couple of points, which was pretty normal. But at any rate, it was little memories like that. You know, there's just tons of memories. That's the most wonderful thing about this sport for me, is the memories. Whether you win, lose, or draw, it didn't matter. You know, it was like a family. And Joe and I, Drake, were talking back there, or actually the other day, and we're talking about the memories. And it was like a family. We would come up here and we would call. And when you're up on the stage, and I have to admit that nobody worse than me, but I looked at it like a situation where it was, you know, this is Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. When I put foot on this stage, I had one plan and one plan only, and that was to try to win. I didn't come here to try to take second place. I did that a lot, but I tried to win. And then as soon as we came off the stage, it was, let's go meet somewhere, have a beverage, relax, talk. And we never really talked turkey calling much. It was about talking about hunting, talking about family, talking about friends, sharing stories. And it was a family. And that's what I think that everyone needs to understand, that, you know, we're fierce competitors. I'm not anymore, but we were fierce competitors, but we were also always friends. And we always knew that if anyone needed anything, they could make a phone call. Somebody would be there. Anytime, any place, it didn't matter. And, you know, there's so many people that I could mention, and I would love to go through this whole list, and I'm not going to, because there's other guys that need to be inducted as well tonight. But I'd be remiss without mentioning my parents, as Steve did. Always took the time to, before I started calling at age 13, and it was at the Mark Twain Open. And it kind of a funny thing, I was a lot of years traveling around that I couldn't drive, so my parents had to drive me. Well, they'd always take a weekend. Anytime I needed to go to a calling contest or wanted to go, they'd drive me, they'd take me. And of course, then I was working in the summer, but, you know, I usually spent all my money, so they were spending their money on entry fees and hotels and everything else that went along with it. So it would be remiss without, you know, thanking God for parents that had the ability and the desire to see me succeed. And then, I lose my place here. And then moving forward, I would be totally remiss without thanking Mr. Harold Knight and David Hale, who were wonderful mentors as well. The love and the friendship those guys gave me, and the things that they taught me over the years, and some of it maybe not so good, I won't share it up here, but nevertheless, the incredible people, godly people that have always looked out for me, and I love you guys, and I wish David could be here, but I know Harold's here, and they're special place in my heart. And most importantly, my family that sits out there. My wife. my wife and my son. It's amazing. She's tolerated me yelping on a daggum turkey call for so long. I threatened the other day to go start taking up duck calling or elk calling, and I got threatened with a divorce, so I won't do that. But, you know, she supported everything that I ever did. Maybe not so willingly sometimes, but she never said anything about it, so I'm going to give her kudos for that. And she's probably wondering why I'm keeping things short, because normally I'm never at a loss for words, but there's not a lot I can say. I'm just honored. I'm thankful. I appreciate everyone. I appreciate the NWTF putting this together to honor us guys. I really appreciate all the years and the time spent that everybody that had anything to do with this great sport, sharing their time with me. And if I've ever cut anybody short at any time because we were in a rush to do something, I want to apologize, because I've always wanted to take time for everybody and always want everybody to know that I'm, you see me on the show floor and I'm wandering around, don't hesitate to stop me. I will talk to you. Sometimes I'll talk to you too long, but I will talk to you, and I'll be glad to share anything I know and can help with. And everybody knows, Steve knows, if there's anybody ever needs anything at any point in time, I'm always a person that's I'm gonna take the time to do it. So I am honored, I am humbled by far, and I want to thank you guys, and thank you guys for the nomination and voting for me. So thank you.
Congratulations, Chris. Well deserved, well deserved. Our next presenter is a great turkey caller as well. He's won many, many Grand National titles in a number of different divisions. He's also a very accomplished call maker in his own right. Mark Prudhomme is going to introduce our next Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Preston Pittman. Mark?
Our next inductee really needs no introduction. They say he was born on Thanksgiving Day. When the nurse slapped him on the behind, he gobbled, and he's been doing it ever since. I don't know about all that, but what I do know is Preston Pittman is all turkey. Preston has an amazing list of accomplishments, and there's no way I could read all of them. He's won Natural Voice World Championships, Grand National titles, Champion of Champions. There's just, I mean, it's unbelievable through all the years, the number of championships that he's won. He's the only caller to hold 5 world championships in 5 different, divisions. The accomplishments are impressive, to say the least. But the impact that Preston has had on turkey calling and turkey hunting in the outdoor industry really can't be measured. I'll never forget, it's been about 30 years ago now, I walked into a sporting goods store in Louisiana, and I'd been hunting a few years and tried competition calling a little bit. And I walked in and there's a call that I'd never seen before. So it was a Preston Pittman Black Diamond. I immediately got it, and like all of us crazy turkey callers, I put it in my mouth before I got in the truck. So I started blowing that call, And that was really one of the first times that I felt like I was sounding like a real wild turkey. I was so impressed with the call that I went back and I ordered a bunch more. Called Preston's shop. I kept doing that over and over. I don't know how many I've ordered. But one day I called, and I guess the guy thought, you know, this guy's, you know, buying so many calls. He said, somebody wants to talk to you. Well, it was Preston. I mean, I'll never forget how encouraging he was, and he didn't know me from anybody. And he said, I want to send you something. And I'm like, you know, okay, well, I didn't understand why he was doing it, but because didn't know him, he didn't know me, but he sent me a week later, a call came in the mail, and it was a pot call that he had signed. I still got the call, you know, almost 30 years later. I cherish it. I'll never get rid of it. But you know, through the years, I got to know Preston. Preston and I became friends. He helped me a lot with my calling. He was instrumental in what little success I might have had, where he encouraged me with confidence and everything else, and I watched him and learned a lot from him. The thing is, he didn't just help me. He helped a lot of people. He helped everybody. There's probably very few callers that are in here or have been on this stage that he hasn't had some impact on. Countless callers through the years have been educated, sometimes entertained, all along the way. But you know, the mark of a true champion can't just be measured with trophies and awards. A true champion is measured by the footprint that he leaves for others to follow. Preston has left some big footprints. I'd like to introduce to you our next Hall of Fame inductee and my friend, Preston Pittman.
Chris, I'm gonna kick you in the rear end because now you're gonna make me break down. And I'm gonna have a seat. I'm not gonna talk too long. I'm gonna tell you a couple of stories, okay? And way back when, there was a little contest up in Yellville, Arkansas, and it was called the National Turkey Calling Championship. There was no, Stuckey has already mentioned this, there was no NWTF then. And the guy comes in, Tom Rogers, and he says, boys, I want to talk to y'all. And I said, okay. You know, everybody got together, but, you know, can you wait till after the contest? You know, we're trying to get ready and everything. And he did. And after the contest, maybe y'all have heard this saying before, but I'm going to tell you the first time I heard it. I have a dream. And that's for all of us to get together and have an organization, not only for turkey calling, but for the preservation and the spread of the American wild turkey. Then along comes a guy back here behind me, Mr. Keck, and he takes hold of the reins, and I stop and I think about all the great and wonderful things that this organization has done. Not for us, just us callers, but for the sport in itself, for the animal in itself. And if you really stop and think, it is astronomical what y'all have accomplished. To me, the true NWTF is every person that takes that day off, that goes to that banquet, that recruits the sponsors to spend a little extra money and put on these banquets and raise this money for such a just cause. And we ain't through yet. We're not through, not near about through yet. There's so many more things that need to be accomplished. The bird itself needs to be looked at a little bit more. Yeah, we met our goal in the beginning with putting turkeys basically in 49 of the states, a humble population. But we got some problems now. We got to figure it out. We got to figure it out together and accomplish what we have already accomplished once before. We still got problems. And I am going to take this time without my family, without my, I knew it was going to happen, without my coworkers, without my friends, without my pals and buddies, the guys that get up and drive from Oklahoma just to come see this. Love you guys. To Billy Reynolds out there, to the people I work with every day, Rudell, Tabby, David, and even to what I call my big boss, Rick and Liza, I love you. I've had such a great life. I've been able to do something that the darn Mississippi redneck ain't supposed to do when he ain't got no book learning, okay? And I cannot leave this stage without saying to our first responders, with what we have gone through, the firemen, the policemen, the nurses, the doctors, all y'all people, thank you. I could not do what I do now today if it wasn't for them. I'm not going to keep going on, but I'm going to try to do something. And this is for y'all. This is for all those volunteers. This is for the real NWTF, and that's y'all. I salute you. See, it won't come out. I know it.
That one got too big.
This is y'all's.
Congratulations, Preston. Thank you. And I think you are next. So if you stay right up here. Well, look, Preston is so popular. He's going to stay here on stage to present our next inductee, his good friend and my good friend, Mr. Ray I. Preston, it's all yours.
First of all, Ray's not going to be here tonight. Let's just say there's some health problems in his family. He sends his love. They come up there and brought me a note and said, you know, Ray sent some stuff in. I said, I don't need that. Ray loves everybody. I can tell you that real quick. And he and I hit it off so good. Remember that little town I just got through telling you about in Yellville, Arkansas? Well, that's where I met Ray. He was so far, at least in my part of the country, so far ahead of everybody else, it was absolutely pathetic. I'll remember the first time I met Ray, it was at that national championship, and that's when I was married to my first wife. Anyway, and he's calling up on the stage, and she looks at me and she says, "Sounds like a big old dog getting his tail stepped on." And I went, no. It doesn't. I said, it sounds like a turkey. How in the heck is he getting that rasp in there? Because I was blowing the old champion choice double reeded call, you know, that was yep, 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 yep. And we made an instant bond because he could gobble. And that's back when I could gobble. And I'm going to try it again before I get off this stage, dadgummit. And he could gobble and I could gobble. And we got to picking and joking and carrying on. And it ended up looking like two gobblers wrapping their necks around each other, flapping and flopping at each other and gobbling. So from that day forward, anytime we saw each other, if he walked in right now, I'd blow up in the full strut and start heading towards him, and he'd blow up in the full strut and start coming to me. So the bond was made. I love that man like a brother, I can tell you. And he has fought so hard and done so many different things for this industry that you can read them up here, okay? It is absolutely unbelievable. But there's one story that I know about Ray that I am going to share with you. And brother, if you're watching out there and streaming, I love you. And I almost brought something on this stage. If you'd have been here, I would have done it. But here's the way it goes. His dedication was unlike any other. Because back in the old days, we didn't have the cell phones. We didn't have the TV shows. You know, it was the American Sportsman. That was about it. You know what I'm trying to say? And he was the most dedicated person as far as carrying the outdoor riders. Because that's how we got our PR back then, was through the outdoor riders, not through streaming, not through this, not through everything else. You had to physically take a person with you in the woods, carry them hunting. They would interview at nighttime. They were lucky enough to harvest a bird. You know, you got all the pictures taken and so on and so forth. But that's how we promoted, you know, our careers. And I'll say again, I have never known a man that was more dedicated to making sure that he took care of his outdoor riders. So y'all clear your mind just a moment, and y'all picture this on a beautiful Missouri morning. Turkey's out there. Came out halfway that time. And here's Ray. Got his rider out there in front of him. And the night before, I think he had some rather spicy food. And from the way that, and I might mess it up a little bit, but I think I got the essence of it. From what I understand, his stomach started rolling. And the turkey started coming. And the stomach started rolling even more so. So the pants had to come down, if you know what I mean. It didn't matter if the turkey was on his way and the rider was fixing to kill the turkey. Y'all picture this. He's hanging on the side of a mountain in the state of Missouri, holding on to the tree, and he's going, yep, 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 yep. Yep, 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 yep. And from what I understand, his rider actually killed the turkey. And if that ain't dedication, I don't know what dedication is. Ray, if you thought you was going to get away without me telling something like that, you're wrong. And help people, oh my God. Ray, I wish you and your family, I wish every one of y'all who are Christians would please say a prayer for him and for his family. He loves y'all. He is so sorry he can't be here. There's not a better man on this earth than Mr. Ray I call him my buddy, my pal, my friend.
Big hand for Ray I, and certainly we want to make sure those prayers are heard. You know, one thing, Preston, I didn't think was acknowledged very well, that you and Ray were probably the two best comedians out of all the Grand National champions ever.
Life is too short. I don't care if you laugh with me or you laugh at me, just laugh. There is one thing I did forget to say, and I'm going to say this. Y'all might see me with a cold beer tonight. I thank my God, and I thank Jesus Christ for saving my soul.
Amen. Amen, brother. Pretty powerful. Our next presenter will be Tom Drake, who will introduce his father, the 2022 Grand National Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Joe Drake. Tom?
I'm going to move this down here because I'm a little shorter than the rest of them. Like Mr. Rob said, my name's Tom Drake, Drake Outdoors and Pistol Creek Outdoors. And it's my high honor and privilege to introduce the final inductee to this year's National Wild Turkey Federation Grand National Hall of Fame. He's the one responsible for getting me involved with the sport of turkey hunting and turkey hunting competition as well. And it never really mattered where I finished in a competition. Who am I kidding? I wanted to win. But as long as I got that nod from him whenever I come off stage, I was good. And if I did good, I got that nod. If I didn't do good, he was sure to tell me why. But over the years of calling competitions, I noticed that other guys started looking for that nod and seeking that same advice that he would give. And I started thinking to myself, hey buddy, that's my coach. But he would never turn anybody away. If they came to him for advice, he was always willing to give it, and he still does today. He's promoted the sport of turkey calling and hunting through the different avenues through the years, through TV shows, magazine articles, and seminars. He even holds his own calling contest each year to introduce the next generation to the sport. He's introduced hundreds of men, women, and children to the sport over the years. Over his career, I can safely say that he has won or placed in several hundred competitions. He would travel for days, hours on end to win a trophy that big to that big. And that was back in the days when there was no money in it. There's a few others on this today that could call better than him on this stage. But when it comes to turkey woods in the springtime, I'll put him up against any of the others. And if that strutter right there thought he was going to gobble, he'd have more to worry about than that bobcat right now. He was with me when I killed my first turkey, and I recently completed my Grand Slam this past spring, and he was with me with all 4 species. And those are memories that I'll never forget. I can literally talk about him for hours, about his achievements and his hunts that we've shared over the year, but I only have so long, and I'm sure he's ready for me to shut up. So without further ado, it again is my high honor and privilege to introduce to you my #1 hunting partner, my best friend, my hero, my dad, Joe Drake. This is going to be pretty short and sweet. If I didn't have so many people to thank, it would be really, really short. I'd like to thank the NWTF for putting on this program and all the committee members that voted for me. And to be honest with you, I got a tremendous amount of people to thank, and I don't know where to start, I guess. And I guess I should start at the beginning. I have 2 people that started my career and kept me in this. And you've heard their names up here several times. And the first one is Ben Rogers-Lee, and the other one is Mr. Dick Kirby. Those 2 kind of pushed me along the way to start with, and a friend of mine told me, let's go to the Southern Open Turkey Calling Contest down there. He had just gone there the year before, and he said, you will not believe the people that are there. So we went down there, several couples of us, and we all piled up into a friend's house down there, and we all slept around and ended up going to the contest. And there was every outdoor celebrity that I even knew about
back then, and first person I seen was Fred Bear. Now you talk about an icon. And Dick Kirby was there, and Jim Clay was there, and then here's the great Ben Lee. He was there, and so we walked around and we knew some of the callers. You know, we heard other people talking about them, like Skeet Thomas from South Carolina, and Louis Stowe was there. You know, some of the great callers that we learned more about them as time went on. And so we listened to the contest, and we were right in the front row. And they were calling, and, you know, they were great, you know, and I kind of looked over and listened to them, and I said, well, to be honest with you, Jimmy, I don't think these guys are that much better than us. Well, we had the great idea of going to the Georgia State Turkey Calling Contest the next year. And we went down there, and we drew numbers. We didn't hardly know what to do, and we practiced our calls and everything. And so as time got there for me to call, I could feel this heat coming up from my feet, all the way up my legs, all the way up to my body, and my head was on fire. And they said, okay, Joe, you're up, you know, you're contestant number 6 or 7. And that room was so full of people. Back then, it was, you know, it was the heyday, or just starting of the heyday of the turkey calling contest. And it wasn't a great big room, you know, but it was packed. There was not a seat, and there was 3 or 4 deep along the walls. You had to walk across people's legs to get up to this little bitty stage up there. And here's the MC calling. And when it was all over with, I stumbled back, and they said, how'd you do? I said, I ain't got a clue. I don't even know if I did the right calls. So anyway, a friend of ours that went with us wasn't a great caller in the world, wasn't the greatest caller in the world, and he'd never killed a turkey except the 2 or 3 that I called up for him. And he tied for 3rd. I said, I must have done something really bad. Next contest, there was one up in Carrollton, Alabama, or someplace like that. Whatever that little town's name was, it was the starting of Alabama Week. Back in those days, they had what they called the Alabama Week. And you had one up there in Carrollton, and then you had one in Montgomery, and one somewhere else, and you ended up at the World down in Mobile. That's where they had the World Contest for years. So we went to that contest. And guess who drove up in a big old black Cadillac? Here he is, the greatest of all times, Ben Lee. And he come over there and was talking to all the guys. And the guy come up, and I knew he was going to be there, emceeing or calling or something, and I bought a call from him. A little super hen or twin hen or something called, and he didn't sign it. He's supposed to have signed every one of them. I said, Ben, you didn't sign my call. And that man passed gas with all the rest of us. I said, what in the world is going on? He said, oh, excuse me, boys, that must have been that red beans and rice I had for lunch. I know, it was kind of disheartening for your hero to do that on top of you, but he signed my call anyway. And he emceed the contest, and the guy that couldn't call a lick, couldn't call a turkey, ended up 3rd in that contest. And I'm thinking, what in the world am I doing wrong? And if this is what's going on with this deal, I'm done. And I was PO'd and walking down there. I said, I'm through with this. And then I heard a guy say, come here, boy. And he called me over there and he said, look, you can't go by one particular contest. He said, judges are different, you know, for just about every one you go to. So Tom Stuckey came with him. He said, you see that man right there? I said, yes, sir, I know who that man is. That's Tom Stuckey, Grand National Champion. He didn't place in the contest either. And that's what he told me. He said, you got something there, boy. You need to hang around a little bit. So we did, and things got a little better. And a couple of years later, we went back to the Southern Open. There was all these fabulous callers down there, and we were running different calls a little bit back then, and Dick Kirby had a call out called the Twin Hen. Won jillions of contests over the country. Not just me, but everybody was winning with Dick Kirby's Twin Hen. So we had the contest. Lord have mercy, I beat Dick Kirby by 1 point. why in the world did I do that? Because every time I walked, and they wouldn't give us our trophies. We had to go to the banquet to get our trophies, and they had a jeweler down there that was over the trophies. They were that big, folks. Beautiful trophies. So we're waiting around. First contest I ever won, I'd stayed there a month to get my trophy. So we was all sitting around there, and Dick stayed on me pretty hard. He said, I added your total scores up and my total scores, and I beat you by 1 point, but he didn't throw out the high and low. So he stayed on me all day pretty good. Dick Kirby was one hell of a competitor. Any of y'all that's been around him knew that. So anyway, we're sitting at the table, and we'd had our little dinner, and they were getting ready to present the trophies. And Dick said, boys, I'm starting a calling team, first calling team that I know of. And he said, I want you and you, Lamar, to be my first Southern callers on my calling team. So that kind of started it. And it kind of started from there and went on way farther than an old firefighter thought it would go. I did it as a hobby, and it kind of grew out of control for me. So I'd like to thank my sponsors. I kind of been around a little bit. I've had several sponsors over the year. Most of it was for, you know, hunting opportunities or a little bit better pay here or one thing or another. And I've been around a little bit. So I'd like to thank Bill Jordan for the early days of Realtree. We've had some great times then. I'd like to thank Dick Kirby for Quaker Boy. I stayed with Quaker Boy for about 8 years, and Paul Buskey had went out on his own. He said, Joe, I'll help you with your expenses. And Quaker Boy was great, but he wouldn't help anybody with their expenses. I'm a fireman, folks. We didn't make no money. I worked 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet, and my wife worked. So anyway, Paul and Billy McCoy, dear friends of mine, I love them both. And I know Billy's up there looking down on me right now. But I went with Paul for a little while, and then I got another friend. Y'all heard him mentioned every time somebody was up here, Mr. Walter Parrott, and he kind of drugged me around with him a little bit. So I went with H.S. Strutt for a little while, and then Walter went to Nightingale, and Joe went to Nightingale too. David and Harold messed around and sold the company, and David called me and said, Joe, you're going to have to make a decision. You've got to stay with us, but you're going to have to leave Realtree. And I had some sleepless nights. I love David and Harold. There's no better people in the world than them 2 guys. They're salt of the earth, and they treat you just like family. You know what I mean? So anyway, I stayed with Realtree. I had to leave David and Harold. So after that, you know, that went away too. And I went with Lightning Game Calls and Benny Briggs for a little while, stayed with them a little while. Lightning Game Calls, we were kind of over the video department in that deal. And then I kind of left them a little bit, went with Woodhaven for a little while, not too long, and then I went with dear friends of ours. Turned out to be that Damon Davis, they bought all my video stuff and editing stuff, and he introduced me to Buddy Stang with Lightning Game Calls, and I was with them for a good little while. And now, my last hurrah, I got another family, Pistol Creek. They are a great bunch of people, and I hope good things come out of this, and they're headed that way right now. I am very, very blessed. I'm pretty humbled to be up here to start with, to be a 3-family man. My first family is my home family. My darling wife, Patty, my high school sweetheart, and we'll be together till we're gone. I promise you that. Had 2 great kids, Tom and Becky. My in-laws, my daughter-in-law and son-in-law, Gwen and Scotty, I couldn't ask for any more. All my grandkids, and I got a jillion of them. And they're all spoiled, I promise you that. They're rotten to the core. My second family, I was a firefighter for 35 years. And when you live with a group of men like that, 24 hours. And you've got your life on the line several times. I mean, you know, you live together, they're family, you'll do anything for them. When you bust into a burning home or something like that, or, you know who you can count on, and, you know, you just get real tight. I mean, you vacation together, you hunt and fish together, and you're friends for life. That was my second family. But the one that's very, very dear to me now, and it has been for years and years, is my calling family, my turkey call friends. You know, all the callers, they help each other back in the day. They were not wrong. Chris was not wrong. It's a family, without a doubt. And I've got so many people to thank. Joe's not very coordinated, and I couldn't build a turkey call worth a flip my whole life and still can't. I got just about everything you can to build one, but I don't have the confidence in it. And these guys that I'm fixing to mention now built me calls and kept me afloat all those years. And to be honest with you, I won a bunch of turkey calling contests. But on the other hand, I lost a pile of them. I'm telling you, I've had my butt beat from here to there and back. And but you just kept going, you know, because every once in a while they'd turn around and old Joe would come on top. But anyway, I'm going to mention all these turkey callers. I love each and every one of them. They're dear friends of mine today. And like I said, I wouldn't have done near as good as I had without these guys. And I want to start with Mark Shirelli with Quaker Boy. Mark, in my opinion, that's the reason the quality was with Quaker Boy in the early years, is because of Mark. He's a great call builder, and I love him to this day. Another one that built me a ton of calls was Barry Springfield. Do anything for you. My cackle call or kiki call or something went out at the Grand Nationals. He was working a booth. I said, what am I gonna do? He said, come here. He had his presses back there. People's lined up trying to buy calls, and he's just stuck his hand up like that, and we built calls until I got one that hit, and he was happy with it, and I was happy with it, and I used it that day. So, two other ones I got to mention is dear friends of mine. I mentioned him a while ago. Is Billy McCoy. God rest his soul. I love him to death. And he built me so many pot calls. I'm not a great friction caller, but I wanted to call in friction. It gave me more airtime to get up here and use the mouth calls and stuff. And he built me so many, and he built one and he dropped it. He said, this is old Chippy. And I used that call. There was a major, big friction calling contest, an open calling contest in Atlanta that year called the Dixie Classic. Well, through the grace of God, I won the friction calling contest using that call. And Paul Butsky built me so many calls back in the day, I can't count them. Another dear friend of mine back in the day that built awesome calls, and he's helped a lot of callers, not just me, but a bunch of other competition turkey callers, and he was too. He was a great one. Mr. Damon Davis. He's no longer with us. He's up there in the big turkey sky too. But he could build one cutting and cackling turkey call, and he built mine for years. Another two of them together built me calls, and they were both champion turkey calls back in the day, and they still build some of them today. Is Skeeter Thomas from South Carolina and the great Walter Parrott. Walter is set over at my kitchen table and built them. He builds them by hand with a pair of pliers. And he's testing them. I said, it's got to be looser, it's got to be looser, it's got to be looser. And he'll waste about 10 or 15 frames, but when he hits it, they're automatic after that. I love you, Walter. Another guy that built me a lot of calls is Mr. Benny Briggs. Benny built me tons of calls, especially when I was calling for him with Lightning Game calls. Another great champion and call builder, built me a ton of calls, is Mr. Billy Yargis, one of the all-time greats. And Billy put out a fabulous turkey call, and he still does today. James Harrison, dear friend of mine, has built me some calls and some darn good ones. Another guy from Pennsylvania comes down. He was with Buddy Stang one time, and we hit it off. And he's not a big call builder. He just builds them for friends, and he's built me some great calls over the years. Jim Manchin is a pretty good call builder, and he can build friction calls, box calls, everything. Another great caller that I think a lot of is Chris Eastridge. He makes one heck of a turkey call, and he builds calls for Pistol Creek. Awesome caller. But one of my number one guys, I love him to death. He's been to my house, killed several of my turkeys, is Mr. Wade Watson. I think the world of him. He can build a turkey call as good as anybody in the world. And he's built me tons and tons and tons of them. And he's a competition turkey caller too. And for another competition turkey caller to build a guy, the best calls, some of the best calls he's ever had in his mouth, that's pretty awesome, I think. Other guys that's built them, think the world of you, Wade. Some other guys that build them for me is Josh Grossenbacher. He's some kind of a new guy. I don't know. He ain't been around that long. He was up here today. And Chris Parrish, another great, one of the all-time greats. He's built me calls. Just about anybody that I asked, this is the type of guys these are, would bend over backwards to help another caller. And I appreciate each and every one of these. I appreciate them. So, without further ado, I'm going to get out of this thing. I've got a new family, Pistol Creek. We're going to go places together. I promise you that. My family love each and every one of y'all. I'm proud to be up here, and I'm pretty humbled about this whole thing with the great other 4 guys that was up here with me. I love each and every one of them. We've competed together several times. They have beat my butt off from here to there. So I'd like to thank each and every one of you for being here. Thank you very much. Thank y'all.
Joe, congratulations.
Thank you, Rob.
You betcha. And we'd like to bring all 5 of those new inductees back up here on the stage. Another round of applause for all 5 of them for the decades of work that they've done to promote the sport of turkey calling.
No, I can't move faster than that. I'm old.
You ain't old.
Way to go, guys. Way to go, man. Love you, brother. Way to go.
Folks, there you have it, our class of 2022, the Grand National Hall of Fame. This will conclude our Hall of Fame ceremony. Thanks for attending. Thanks for showing your appreciation for all these great ambassadors. I wish you all a great night, safe journey back home. Thank you very much.
To the backpack, first love leader, the heart cracked, double down dreamer, the homesick, the grass that's greener, and a slice of mama's peach pie. To the flat road, couch cushion, gas money, the worker